Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
My name is Mirza Mojid Iftikhar, and I will be presenting the recap of the previous class. So, we have started the second unit and we started with the point planning. So, what is planning? Planning is what to do and why to do. And every planning starts with a vision. And then we discussed planning with the example of AMU itself, the planning and vision which was required to establish AMU. So, during the revolt of 1857, Sir Syed was part of the British administration. He was posted in Bijnor, and finally, when he returned back, the devastation he saw on the public level and as well as on the personal level. Uh, he even saw his mother hiding in the stable. And on seeing the devastation, the first thing that came into his mind was to leave the country and settle down somewhere else. But later on, when he contemplated more, he realized running away is not the solution. And as a responsible person, he has to face it. Uh, and that is how the seeds of the institution was sown. He could have taken any route like politics or something else, but he focused on education and said education is the sole cause of the problems of Indians and especially Muslims, as they rejected everything that Britishers gave. He also set up scientific society. The purpose of this society was to translate the learning into the respective mother tongue because it was the ideal situation. But further, despite being the ideal situation, uh, it was not pragmatic. So he decided to use English medium in his institution. The Sayyid vision was that he wanted to do something for the Qawm, and by the Qawm, he meant in a broader sense. And his vision became his dream, and the dream did not let him sleep. Uh, and later on, he started the Muslim education mission. Sorry, education mission. He also started a publication called Tehzeebul Akhlaq. The sole purpose of that publication was that he could reach out to the people on ground level, and he could change the mentality of the people. In this publication, whenever Sir Syed used to write his opinions, there was a person, Mr. Mehendi, who used to always deny his opinion or turn down his opinion and write a revertal. But Sir Syed published his revertal as well so that the people can decide what was right. But later on, Mr. Mehendi also joined him in his vision and was and became one of his most powerful and most reliable partners, and even got the title of Mohsin Mulk. And this whole process of goal setting was explained by Mr. Azhar Kazmi in his book by the term strategic intent. He explains strategic intent in different levels, which was starting with vision, then mission, then objective, and then target. That is all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mirza.
So can I start?
Yes,
Am I audible?
yes. Please do.
Okay, good morning everyone. I am Afra Malik. Now let's have a quick recap of yesterday's class. Yesterday we started a new unit that is on planning. Before going further, we see two questions. First, what is planning? What do we think planning is? Second, for establishing AMU, what planning was required? So planning is all about goal setting and taking the appropriate measure to achieve that goal. For that, we took an example of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, of how he established AMU, how he put the foundation of AMU. So Sir Syed, instead of taking a political route or any other route, he zeroed his attention on education. He believes that education can relieve all our problems, and not the traditional education, but the English medium education. Later, for that purpose, he started Scientific Society in AMU. The sole purpose of this society is to translate the knowledgeable text into the mother tongue, so that everyone can understand it. So, For that purpose, he has two goals. First a vision, and that its mission. So vision is the big soch, which can be understood by the saying, better way to predict future is to carve it. So Sir Sayyid's vision was so strong that it did not let him sleep at night. There is an instance which Sir discussed with us that Sir Sayyid started a publication called Tehzeebul Akhlaq. In this publication, he served his idea about education for his qawm. But against him was Mehdi Mia. His thoughts were so powerful that even the thoughts of Sir Sayyid lags behind. To resolve this issue, he invited Mehdi Mia to his home for a meal. Later at night, Mehdi Mia found that Sir Sayyid was not asleep. Instead, he was in a very trance state, on the verge of crying. So he went to him and asked, "What is the bad news?" So Sir Sayyid replied that our qawm is in so much distress that whenever I think of them, I feel like crying. From that moment on, they both become one and started on their vision. Second comes the mission. The mission is the specific contribution we want. So for that, the goal setting is divided into few strategic levels. That is vision, mission, objective, goal, and planning. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Afra and Mirza Mujib. So, should we have the recap, or should we go the feedback on the recap, or we should go ahead with the group presentation?
Feedback, please.
Zareen, how much time do we need for those presentations?
Sir, I signed 15 minutes, sir. I said that 15 minutes should be okay by one group.
So maybe I want to build up on a few ideas which Afra and Mirza Mujib has presented. So I would like to give them a chance first, isn't it? So let us be through with the presentation, and I request the groups to wind up in the 15 minutes allotted time, because we need to have at least some time for providing feedback to individual participants if there are any. So please adhere to the time limit and finish it in 15 minutes, both the groups. Let us start.
Good morning. I'm Laiba Khan, and my group members are Mojaz Abbas, Mohammad Akdas, and Aisha Khan. So I'm glad to start the discussion, and we are covering Unit 1. My topic is meaning and scope of management. So basically, why management? We have employee society. Its effectiveness depends strong and performing institutions. Each one from us is a manager itself. Because of management skills, help effective attainment of one personal goal. So management is making people productive, working individually or in a group in an organization. Why business management? Business and enterprise were first modern institution to emerge. Toffler says that the world has witnessed three waves. Agricultural wave, with this settled life started. Industrial wave, establishment of huge process-based industries like land, railroads, bank, educational institution. Service wave, this wave expanded and depends the scope of management in the class organization. What management does? Management contributes in a form of value addition, input, transformation, output. In input, there are 4 M's: man, money, material, and machine. Transformation, it involves planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Basically, directing is the heart of management. Output, they are in the form of goods and services. Definition of management. It is a process of planning, leading, and controlling the resources of organization in an efficient and effective manner. Efficiency means doing things right versus doing right things. Effectiveness, it involves choosing right goals, means right direction and destination. What a manager does. He plans, organize, leads and control human, financial, physical and informational resources. Thank you. I would like to invite my friend Agdas to start the management process.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Very much.
Mohammad Akdas, and I'll be covering the topic process of management. The process of management involves various management functions like planning, organizing, staffing, directing, which is also called leading, and controlling. So the management process begins with planning. Planning means deciding in advance what is to be done, how it is to be done, when, and by whom it should be done. So the planning involves various processes. The first one is setting objectives. For example, there is a mobile company. It has set its objective to sell 1 lakh unit in the next year, which is almost double than its current sales. This is setting objectives. Next is developing planning premises. It means taking care of the external factors which may affect your plans. For example, the mobile company has set its objective of selling 1 lakh unit of mobile phone only after going through all the positive or the negative impact of COVID pandemic on their sales. Next is identifying and evaluating the alternative courses of action. For example, the mobile company has many alternatives to enhance their sales, like reducing the price, increasing advertising, and improve the after sales service. Then comes selecting one best alternative. The mobile company select, for instance, TV ads and online marketing out of so many alternatives available. The final process under planning is implementing the plan and follow up. Next management function is organizing. Organizing is a function of management which involves developing an organizational structure and allocating human resources to ensure the accomplishment of the objectives. Various steps in the organizing are assigning the task, grouping the task into department, delegating the authority, and allocating the resources across the organization. The third function of management is staffing. Staffing is a process of recruiting eligible uh, candidates for filling certain vacant positions in a company. Various steps under planning are manpower planning. Steps under staffing are manpower planning, recruitment, then comes selection, training and development, promotion, transfer, and finally determination of remuneration. Then comes directing, which is also called leading. Directing is a process in which manager instruct, guide, uh, motivates, and oversee the performance of the workers to achieve the predetermined goal of the organization. Directing is said to be the heart of management and therefore the most important one. Various elements of directing involves supervising, motivating, leadership, and communication. The final function of management is controlling. Controlling means comparing the actual performance with the planned performance, uh, and taking corrective and finding if there's a if there's variation in the actual and the planned performance, and finally taking corrective measures so that in future there's a match between the actual and the planned performance. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Aisha to speak on a topic.
Am I audible?
Yes, Aisha.
Okay, good morning to one and all. This is Aisha Khan, and I'll be discussing the management frameworks. Management process is broadly three frameworks: Firstly is the function framework, then skills framework, then roles framework. Function framework was covered by our friend Agnes. I'll be continuing with the skills framework. Managers need a wide variety of skills, and skills can be developed and not necessarily inborn. CATS classified them into three different categories. First, be the technical skills, which are the ability to perform specific tasks. Then comes the human skill. It involves getting along the people and motivating them. Then we have conceptual skills, which is organizing the information and to be able to see the big picture. Requirement of these skills depends on the level of the management. Technical and human skills are needed at the lower level, while the conceptual and human skills are needed at the higher level. We also discussed Mintzberg's conceptualization, which busted the traditional image of the manager and concluded that managerial work can be characterized as calculated chaos or controlled disorder. In the light of this topic, we also discussed myths and facts about a manager's job, and to understand what manager work in detail, we study roles framework. Roles are defined as expectations of significant people, including our own. It is a wider concept than function. Henry Mintzberg observed manager performs three kind of major roles, namely interpersonal role, decisional role, and informational role. Interpersonal role is further divided into three roles. First is the figurehead role, where he acts as a role model and symbolic head. He attends the ceremonies and performs duties of legal and social needs. Then we have leader role, in which he motivates the subordinates and supervises the activities of the team. We have liaison role that includes the networking and making contacts and taking care of the activities involving the outsiders. We have a decision role, which can be further divided into four roles. First one we have is entrepreneurial role, where he continuously searches for the opportunities and initiates improvements. Then we have a disturbance handle role, which includes corrective actions and strategies for unexpected disturbances. Next comes the resource allocator role, which includes decision of allocating the different resources of the organization to the required area and its efficient and effective use. Next we have is negotiator role, which includes the responsibility of representing the organization and negotiating the meetings. Information role is subsequently divided into three roles. First one is the monitor role, which includes handling of mails and acting as a link between internal and external information. Disseminator role, which includes the transmission of the information and facts, verbal communication, review sessions, and forwarding mails. Then we have spokesperson role, which includes the transmission of the information to the outsiders on the behalf of the organization and handling the board meetings. These roles are not mutually exclusive, and managers perform them every day simultaneously. Although different department heads focus more on one set of roles than the other, we can take an example of the MIS manager, who focuses more on the informational role. That's all from my side. I would like to invite my teammate Moses to continue with the topic evolution of management thought. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Moses Abbas, and my topic is evolution of management theory. The evolution of management thought is a process that started from the early days of human race. More capable humans were able to organize masses, share them into various groups. The sharing was done according to the masses' strength, intelligence, and capacities. Creation of Pyramid of Egypt was required extensive planning, decision making, organizing men, materials, and supervision. There are different schools of management. Early management theory includes scientific management theory school, classical organization theory school, the behavioral school, and the management science school. The scientific management school, in this school, the scientific management theory arose in the need to increase productivity. To increase the productivity was to increase the efficiency of the workers. Frederick Taylor, Henry Gantt, and Frederick and Lillian Gilbert devised the body of principle known as scientific management school. Frederick Taylor believed that a high division of labor was needed to produce a high amount of output. He was introduced a differential rate system. This meant that workers who perform better than others should be awarded with a bonus or more price per piece. Frank and Lillian Gilbert collaborated on fatigue and motion studies and focused on ways of promoting the individual worker's health. They tried to find the most economical way of each task in order to upgrade the performance and reduce fatigue. Classical Organization Theory School. Classical Organization Theory School grew out of the need to find guidelines for managing complex organization as factories. Henry Fayol investigated that sound management practice fallen into certain pattern that can be easily identified and analyzed. He emphasized on following factor to be a effective management order: the division of labor, a tall organizational structure, a wide span of control, and an authoritarian style of management. Another scientist, Max Weber, developed a theory of bureaucratic management that emphasized the need for strictly defined bureaucracy. He thought that the bureaucracy was an ideal management organization. He considered the ideal organization to be a bureaucracy whose activities and objectives were clearly spelled out. Mary Follett explained that no one could become a whole person except as a member of group. A person grew through their relationship with other in in coordination. The behavioral school. In the behavioral school, it achieved large-scale success during 1930s as the classical approach did not scored good popularity among the management class. It The classical approach could not achieve sufficient production and management workplace harmony. To managers' frustration, people did not always follow expected patterns of behavior. That there was increased interest in helping managers deal more effectively with the people side of organization. The Management Science School. The Management Science School provides manager with a scientific basis for solving problems and making decisions. This school grew directly of the World War II, where groups called organizational teams for Great Britain and organizational research teams for US. The C.W. Churchman and Russell Ackoff defined the management science approach as an application of the scientific method to problem solving of an operation of a system and the solving of these problems by solving mathematical equation representing the system. That's all with this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses and Aisha and the entire group. Will you be talking about the contemporary schools or?
Sir, it's done.
Then, okay. So let us move on to the second group. Some connectivity issues, it seems.
Sir, Oneza will be presenting the first part. I think there is some network issue.
Mm-hmm. So try to present without PowerPoint slide. Yes, Suneza, please start.
So Neza got exit from the class. She is reconnecting.
Okay.
Sir, can we present with the PPT simultaneously?
Yes, if there is no connectivity issue, you can.
So,
You are muted, Uneza.
So, sorry for the interruption. May I start again?
Yes, please.
So good morning everybody. So today will be giving the recap of Unit 1. We started this unit, please change the slide. We started this unit with a very important question. Why management? Management is something which has been in practice since ages. And for this we have a
In Uneza, your voice is not reaching us.
we started this unit with a very important question. Why management? We have discussed how important the role of management is in Alvin Toffler's book, The Third Wave. We have been managing things since ages. For this, we have a very good example of Harappan civilization where we have a very organized system of management. Our society has become a society of institutions. Till 1900, it was the family who used to perform all the social tasks. But now we have an employee society, and society's effectiveness depends upon the effectiveness of its institutions, and this effectiveness can be brought only through the management process. Each one of us is a manager of sorts. Management skill helps us in effective attainment of our personal goals. All professionals, be it teachers, scientists, etc., at later stage of their career, earn their living as managers. The next thing which comes to our mind is why there's so much of emphasis on management. In the societies of medieval period, we have two groups, the church and the state. The church includes the religious minorities. With the arrival of the third group, that is the mercantile class, the power dynamics got changed, and it led to the accumulation of power with the mercantile class, due to which globalization and industrialization took place. The next important question which we have in mind is why exactly we are concerned with business management. Business enterprises were the first modern institutions to emerge. Toffler says that the world has witnessed three waves. Number one, agricultural waves. Number two, industrial wave. Number three, the service wave. Agricultural wave is the wave with which the settled life has started. An industrial wave has led to the establishment of huge process-based industries, along with the establishment of education institutions, banks, etc. Management is required across all organizations, including business. That is why in India we have Indian Institutes of Management, that rather than Indian schools of business. Although traditionally we continue to use the nomenclature of MBA, suggesting greater emphasis on business administration. Now, what actually this process of management does? Every organization has a system of management, and during this process, from input to output, there is a value addition phase, or we can call it a transformation phase or a conversion phase. Input could be in the form of human or physical, and this input includes the 4 M's of management too. Those are men, which is used in generic sense, and materials, materials, and money. And all these lead to the output, which could be in the form of services or goods. During the process of value addition, there are certain big steps which goes on. Number 1, planning. Number 2, organizing. Number 3, directing. And number 4, called controlling. And all these steps are overlapping with each other. They all follow a cyclic process. And feedback plays a very important role in these processes. Now that we come to what exactly is management, how do we actually define management? Management is a process of getting more and better. And how do we get this more and better? It is through the process of KSA, where K stands for knowledge, S for skills, A and attitudes. And how do we achieve KSA? It is through the organizations, management schools, which train us in all these three perspectives. Knowledge can be similar to a letter T, where the horizontal line demonstrates the breadth of the broadness of knowledge, and the vertical line demonstrates the depthness of knowledge. The skills could be technical, conceptual, or human. Now that we come
Voice is not reaching us.
Arshi, you're muted.
Now we come across two important processes, that is effectiveness and efficiency, for which a well-known business consultant, that is Peter Drucker, has rightly said that effectiveness is doing the right things and efficiency is doing the things right. We can very well differentiate between the two, that is effectiveness and efficiency. Effectiveness refers to completing the task on time, no matter what is the cost. Whereas in case of efficiency, we have to complete the task with the optimum utilization of resources. There should be no wastage of resources, and here there is no time bar. The main objective of effectiveness is to achieve the end result. But in case of efficiency, the objective is to conduct the cost analysis. Effectiveness and efficiency are the two sides of the same coin, which we call here is management. The prosperity of any organization is dependent on the effectiveness and efficiency. However, effectiveness is critical to performance. First, there is a need to find out the right direction, and then we have to traverse in that particular direction. No amount of efficiency can cope up with the lack of effectiveness. Now, I would like Arshi to continue with the recap with the role of managers.
Thank you, Aneza. We understood the need for management, but one might ask, what does the manager actually do? So let me answer this by giving a simple example. Imagine a class of 8-year-olds without a teacher. Similar would be the condition of a company without a manager. An effective manager brings life to an organization by directing people, gathering resources, and creating budgets. Without a manager, any business or organization is merely composed of people, resources, and budgets. Now, managers are classified into three categories according to the hierarchy of authority, or we can say the type of task they perform. As we can see on the slide, there are top managers, middle line managers, and the first line managers. Moving further to management process. Next slide. Yeah. Managers are responsible for the process of getting activities completed efficiently with and through other people and achieving the firm goals through four basic management functions. The first function includes planning. It includes what is to be done, how is to be done, and when it's to be done. The second process is organizing. It means arranging human and physical resources, identifying jobs to be done, and hiring people to do them. The third process is leading, directing and coordinating the work activities of people, and the last process includes controlling. It involves monitoring, comparing, and correcting work performances. Now, the question may arise, are these processes sequential or simultaneous? So, for the sake of clarity, we present them in a simplified step-by-step sequence. But in practice, they are intermingled, or we can say interrelated. For instance, as well as leading a team, a manager may find himself resolving a conflict, taking corrective actions, etc. So moreover, the changes have to be brought in various elements of management processes. Management skills. Yeah. Being a manager is a tough job, but being a great one is even tougher. Just consider the array of knowledge and skills it takes to deal with a variety of people, tasks, and business minds. So, management researcher Robert L. Katz proposed that managers must possess and use three critical management skills in managing. The first skill is conceptual. These are the skills managers use to analyze and diagnose complex situations. Second is interpersonal or human skills. These skills involved with working well with people both individually and in groups. The third skill is technical skills, which are the job-specific knowledge and techniques needed to work and task, or to perform work and task. Now coming to management roles. As cliche as it may sound, mothers, the manager of our homes, play various roles of mentor, counselor, dispute handler, etc. So in a similar way, a manager has to perform different roles. Management expert and professor Henry Misberg found that the managers engaged in a number of varied, unpatterned, and short duration activities. He then concluded the managers perform 10 different but interrelated roles. These 10 roles are grouped around interpersonal category, informational category, and the decision making. In interpersonal category, we have the roles in this category involve providing information and ideas. The roles are figurehead. As a manager, you have social, ceremonial, and legal responsibilities. People look up to you as a person with authority and as a figurehead. Second is leader. This is where you provide leadership to your team, manage the performance and responsibilities of everyone in the group. The third is liaison. Managers must communicate with internal and external contacts. You should be able to network efficiently on behalf of your organization. Second category is informational category. The managerial roles in this category involve processing of information. The roles are monitor. In this role, you monitor your team in terms of both their productivity and well-being. Second role is disseminator. This is where you communicate potentially useful information to your colleagues and your team. The third role is spokesperson. In this role, you are responsible for transmitting information about your organization and it goes to the people outside it. The last category is decisional category. The manager roles in this category involve using of information. The roles are entrepreneur. As a manager, you create and control change within the organization. This means solving problems, generate ideas, and implementing them. Second role is disturbance handler. When an organization or a team hits an unexpected roadblock, it's the manager who must take the charge. The third category is resource allocator. You'll also need to determine where organizational resources are best applied. This involves allocating funds as well as assigning staff and other organizational resources. The last role is negotiator. You may be needed to take part in and direct important negotiations within your team, department, or organization. Now, I'll be handing over to Danish for further explanation. Thank you.
Good morning to all of you. I am Muhammad Danis and I will covering the topic evolution of management. So we know management is an old profession but a new discipline, and early management theories develop principle for managing organization that suited times. If we go through the history, we see there are several examples of management in ancient times, like pyramids of Egypt and ancient and Indus Valley civilization. And we see there are, and if we move further, we see and if we move further, during the period of 1700 to 1800, we can also call it the period of early management thought. It emphasized on industrial revolution, and the factory system highlights the industrial revolution and the importance of direction as a managerial purpose. And during the period, many economic theorists describe the notion of management. Adam Smith and James Watt has been recognized as two theorists who launched the world towards the industrialization. But management appeared as the different discipline in the second half of the 19th century. Some of the enterprises separate the management of business from their ownership and give emphasis on incompetent labor and improper system of wages payment. To resolve such issues, people began to identify management as a separate field of study. And during 20th century, management has become scientific discipline with standard principles and practices. And then different types of approaches have evolved over a period of time, like the classical approach. It was associated with the way to manage work and organization more efficiently. It is categorized into three groups. The first one is the scientific management, the second one is administrative management, and the third one is the bureaucratic management. Now, scientific management, Frederick W. Taylor, who is also known as the father of scientific management, he published the principle of scientific management in 1911, in which he proposed work method designed to increase worker productivity. Scientific management actually focus on the worker and machine relationships, and also that the organizational productivity can be increased by increasing the efficiency of the production process. The main thing that Taylor noticed is that there is a lack of tools and techniques in the organization, and also there is no match between the jobs and skills, and also there is no motivation from the organization. So he works on it and gives some principles uh, give some principle that and the principle of Taylor's is that to develop the scientific approach for doing any jobs, and also he and uh, and and the second one is that to scientifically select and then train, teach, and develop the workers. And the third one ensure that the most efficient ways of working are used. And the last is that there should be division of work and responsibility between the workers and management. So the basic idea behind scientific management is to develop a standard method for performing a job, also train workers in a standard method. Also to provide wages incentives for workers for increased output. But also there was some criticism of scientific management because it did not appreciate the social work, context of worker and higher needs of workers. And it did not acknowledge the variance among individuals, and it tended to regard workers and uninformed and ignored their ideas for suggestion. Also, workers were highly exploited. They were treated as machines, and there is an undue pressure on employee to perform at faster levels. And we can also learn about the Henry Elgant, and later he improved Taylor's differential. He worked with the tailors, and later he improved Taylor's differential prices system as task and bonus plan, which provide extra wages for extra work. Also, he developed a daily balance chart, also known as Gantt chart, in which he put output in one axis and time on the other axis. He also focused on humanistic approach and industrial responsibilities. We will also learn about the contribution of Gilbert. They focused on increasing worker productivity through the reduction of wasted motion, and also developed micrometer to time worker motion and optimize from work performance. This was all from my side. I will handing over to Adnan Lias. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, my friend. And now I will be taking on after this. So like we saw, the Henry's principle, the Taylor's principle failed because there were some limitations to it, and like situation changed, so his theory became irrelevant during the time of recession or during the time of the war. So new theories started coming up, which included human relations in what is the role of humans, human relation in the efficiency, and how we can use it in our managerial skills. So Henry Fayol gave now this school, which is called Classical Organization School, gave Henry. So Henry Fayol's principles are famous for it. 14 principles he gave it. So the 14 principles that included were division of labor, authority, discipline, unity of command, unity of direction, subordination of individual interest to organizational interest, then remuneration, centralization, scalar chain, order, equity, stability of personal initiative, aspiratory corps. Now, why we do this is like I will give a contemporary, try to give contemporary example of it, like division of labor. Like nowadays we see people in IT guy are also divided on the basis of their specialization. Like someone is working in deep web, or someone is working in data science. So what we are doing is providing a division of labor. This increases the efficiency. Then we will then we have the authority. So like we know we should know who is having the authority so as to give the command, and then comes the discipline. Your man under you or the man above should be disciplined. So everyone is acting on the full efficiency and acting. Now then unity of command. The command that are coming should be in a similar manner, or should be similar and not different. Like one person is giving command and another person is giving different command. So that will create a confusion. Like in army, we have a hierarchy that is followed, and it's not that some other officer will command some other officer's men. Then comes the unity of direction. Like having same commands will give you a specific direction. Okay, so moving on. Like one thing that I would like to emphasize on it: why law versus principle. Principle are something that are flexible. Law are fixed. Then after that, the behavioral school came, like Hawthorne studies, which showed that the effect of the light was less rather than human relations were more important in the efficiency of man. So this brought the concept of social setting and social man. Then Maslow gave hierarchy of needs, but these are these are theories which were not scientific and lacked evidence. So after that came the management science. These were developed like during Second World War to tackle the problems. So that was operational research, and one example of it was reverse pyramid. Then came the integration school. Like there are three approaches, two approaches in it: systems approach, contingency approach, and this is also known as contemporary approach. So contingency approach says like there is no best way to plan, organize, and control. So for every problem, the solution starts with it depends. So like the situation changes and the solution also changes. In the end, I would just like to quote Robert McNamara, who said management is the gate through which social and economic and political change, indeed change in every direction, is diffused through society. Thank you.
All right. I think the time for the class is over. Parvez sir, do you hear us?
Yes, that's what I was saying. Let us
Yes.
wind up the
Right,
class.
sir.
Let us wind
Yes,
up the
sir.
class. And tomorrow there will be no recap.
Yes.
We will analyze these presentations. Thank you.